like I am finally live. I am sorry, guys. Looks like when I was trying to connect my OBS with YouTube with the schedule, I don't know what I'm doing, so I am still learning. So hopefully there won't be any kind of problems with that going forward. But anyway, I wanted to start off by first thanking, I should have done this last week, but I wanted to thank Elizabeth Coaster Rogers. She's in my Facebook group, Crafting with Debbie, and we did a swap for Halloween cards. And this is the card that she had sent to me, and I wanted to share that because it is just so darn cute. We've got this little bat on this side that kind of spins around. He's really cute. And then this one, this is something, until this year, I had never seen this kind of card. But you have this little guy down here, and you move him around. So this is something I think is absolutely great for kids, especially because they can play with the card. It becomes a toy form. So anyway, I do want to thank you, Elizabeth. Don't know if you are on. I think you were saying you were going to want to come in a little bit later, but I wanted to share that. I think that is super cute. Oh, and hi, Karen. Thank you so much for joining me today. So what I'm planning on doing is using, I thought about this actually a couple of months ago when I did a couple of Slimline cards, that with the new design that people are so excited about, it's so excited about those tall, long, thin cards, that the Prima doll stamps are perfect for that because they're so big that I've only used one once on one card. I've used them for some other things, but I've only used them on a card once because you cut off most of the image. So I thought it would be fun to use this on a Christmas card. Now, what I want from you guys is to help me decide, do you want me to color the image up, or do you want me to try doing some paper piecing? Because these stamps are perfect for both of those ideas. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp one out. What I've done so far is I've taken some regular 8.5 by 11 heavyweight cardstock. This is the stuff that I get from Michael's, and went ahead and cut it down to 7 inches. So if this is going to be 2 card bases. So I'm planning on making 2 cards if we have time. So that's that part, and then the scrap from that is perfect size to stamp one of these on. So I figured I would use the scrap to stamp her out. And then I can either color or paper piece or both, depending on how much time it takes for me to do one or the other. So I'm going to be using my Tim Holtz platform. I have it set on the rubber side. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp these out real quick. And because even with the paper piecing, I can paper piece everything together on the image that I stamp out first. And then do any kind of shading or coloring or anything I want to do to those. So, see what I mean? This is basically the size of a Slimline card. And she is perfect for that. And I've got about like 5 or 6 of these because when I first saw them, I just thought, oh my god, it's so cute. You know, like so many other things. So I bought a bunch. And then I haven't really had the opportunity to use them that much. So let me get out my Memento Tuxedo Black ink and stamp her down. One of the funny things is every time when I use one of these, because the stamp grooves are so deep, I never think I've got enough ink down. And I think I do want it a little bit darker though for that. I'm going to go ahead and stamp both of these because I can work on the other one later if I don't get time to get it finished up with you guys. Her buttons aren't showing well. Let me get a little more ink down for her buttons. There we go. And I love this one. I think I've used this. This may be the stamp that I used the last time when I was messing around with them and put it on a card. And that is damaged, so let me turn it over. So I figure I can fussy cut her out and put her on the front of a card. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do, at least with the first one, is do a little paper piecing, because it's really not that difficult. It's just thinking about what patterns you want to use and for what things you want to use them for. And then there is quite a bit of fussy cutting with that. Okay, so that looks great. And then the paper pack that I'm going to use is this one from Recollections. I think it's a new one. I've only been to Michael's once. Yes, I can see your comments, so thank you so much for that, TR. I've got this over at Michael's. I've only been to Michael's like once since the lockdown, and they only had a couple of things at the time. So let's see what I want to work with. Now this pack is kind of cool. It does have the regular cut-aparts, but it's also got... Ooh, I could do her in green plaid. That might be interesting. But it's also got these punch-outs. It's like tags. Where did I find that? These are all punch-out tags. They don't usually have that in the Michael's paper pack, so I was really surprised when I saw that. So, you know, these are probably going to be just ready-made sentiments and stuff for me to put on the front of some cards instead of having to fussy cut. So these are really good. Hey, Elizabeth, I think you missed it, but I just showed this wonderful card that you sent me for our swap, so thank you, ma'am. I think I am going to do her in this green plaid because that is just so pretty. There's a blue plaid in here as well. And then I love, 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 love all of these snowflakes. But for her dress, I think I'm going to... Okay, you guys tell me. Would you rather the green plaid or the red polka dot? Thanks again, Elizabeth. I'm glad that they were fun. It looks like it would be fun. So I'm going to go ahead and take out both of those pages. There is a little bit of a lag, so I don't know if you guys have responded to my question about your preference. Elizabeth likes the polka dots. Okay, so what we do now is we're going to be stamping on the same paper for her dress. So her dress comes to about 2.5 inches up, so I'm going to move my paper 2.5 inches up because I don't need to stamp the whole thing and waste the rest. Actually, it's more than that. Oh, it was 3.5 inches up. I would have been wasting an inch of paper. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down in there and just stamp her dress area. Actually, I think I want her hairband to match. So Karen wanted the green plaid and everybody else wanted the polka dots. Oh, that is cute. And then what I tend to do when I'm cutting out anything fussy cutting, I make sure to cut out my big scissors work better for getting the general area, and then I'll go back in with my small scissors to do the fussy cutting. Let's get this out of the way. And for this, I don't think I want the little ruffle to be polka dot too. I think I'm going to leave that part white, but do the rest of it in the polka dot. So for fussy cutting, because It looks like Karen was not sure as to how that works. You basically just cut out the pieces that you want. And I know this is going to take forever, right guys? You could, I would say that you could use your scan and cut for this. However, doing that, it's not going to work quite as well. I actually had a little trouble with it yesterday trying to cut out a mask. What I was wanting was a mask for a kind of a biggish die. I mean, a biggish stamp that I was using. It's the Christmas tree kitties. I don't know if that's the name of the stamp. I'll have to look it up at some point. But it was the stamp that's basically a tree full of that's made of a bunch of kitty cats, and it's so darn cute. But I wanted to use a mask because I wanted to do some ink blending with it, and instead of creating a new mask every time that I do one of the cards, I wanted to do one out of contact paper because it just lasts so much longer. I had to go in and trace the edge that I wanted my scan and cut to do because it kept recognizing all the rest of the lines. I don't understand a squirrel pattern? What are you talking about, Elizabeth? Elizabeth Costa Rogers just said that she still has a squirrel pattern. I don't know what that is. So you see, I'm just going around her dress, and then I am going to go around her sleeve. And actually, I'm going to use another trick that I believe I saw on... It was probably Christina Werner when she was talking about doing masks, but I think it would work good with this too. I went ahead and cut through her arm to get to the inside that I want to cut out because I suck at using a craft knife. So now I've got that center spot out, which I need to clean up just a little bit, but I've got that, and then when I glue everything down, you won't be able to tell that I cut through this. And I'm just going around her shoulder, and then I'm going to cut off her neck. We don't need her neck. All I'm getting on this one is just that dress. And I think I'm going to also leave that collar as white too. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off too. Yeah, I would love to see a picture of that, Miss Elizabeth. Okay, like I said, paper piecing does take a while, but it's kind of soothing just doing all that fussy cutting and such. It's just like with coloring. I haven't been coloring as much lately as I have in the past, and I think I need to practice more because I'm forgetting which color combinations I like and which ones I don't. So every single time I pick up my markers, I'm rediscovering what works and what doesn't. Okay, I've still got this other piece here that needs to be cut out, so I'm going to do the same thing I did on that side, except I'm going to cut on this line here. Mostly because I don't want it to be obvious that those two pieces aren't connected when I glue it down. Okay, so that part's cut. Okay, so there is her little dress. And the way that this works, the way that it works is that we'll glue it back onto her here. Okay, so let me get my art glitter glue that is hiding from me. Where did I put that? There we go. Actually, before I do that, I think I'm going to do a little coloring on this. Now, since this is all in reds, I need, actually it's kind of reddish pink, so I need to find a color that's going to be kind of the same. I think my CRs are going to work for that. I use Spectrum Noir markers. Yeah, that color matches well enough, so that's CR5, and I think I want CR8 to be the darker. Yeah, that'll look good. So basically all I'm going to do is add some shading and such to this. We've already got a base color down, so you don't really need to do a lot of coloring with this. But I do want to add a little dimension, so just going to add a little color in there. And because I can see the fold here, I'm going to go on the right side of that fold, because that's where the little bit of shadow would be. And I think I'm going to get one of the lighter CRs as well. That one's a little bit too bright too. Maybe CR2 would work. Yeah, that works. This one's going to blend it out a little bit more, and I'm testing it on some of the scrap I've got of that same color so I know what it's going to look like. Okay, that's a little better. Oh yeah, that looks a lot better. Okay, for the one in the middle, I think I'm just going to use the CR5. Just go straight down. And then on this side, we've still got that fold to that side, so I'll go to the right, and this one is also to the right, as is this one. Then I'm going to use the darker color. Alright, yeah, that way you guys can see what I'm doing. Just bring the darker in a little bit. And then blend it out with the lightest. And then we've got this part that was cut, but nobody knows that it was cut except for us. So I do still need to color that one a little bit too. And you probably notice I am checking my markers every time I pick them up, because guess what I've done before? I have accidentally picked up the wrong marker and did the wrong coloring, and I had to try to fix that. So for her dress, oh, that is going to look so darn cute. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. Okay, and now I need to cut out her little headband, which I don't really see at the moment, but I'm going to make one anyway. Okay, and to do this, I'm going to cut along that solid line there and then go a little further back and cut that loose as well. And she'll have a little bit of a hairband. So that's where that's going to go. But before we get started with that, it looks like we've got some more folks here. Hi, Miss Chow. I'm going to go ahead and get these markers out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and color her hair before I add that hairband. And I think I want her to be blonde this time. So I'm going to use my GY colors. Yeah, that's a GY one. Okay. GY1 and GY4. So this is where all of the shading is going to go. So I just put a layer down of the lightest color first, and then I'm going in very lightly and just adding in some of the dark, because it doesn't have to be complicated. This one I'm going to make it kind of simple. I do need to practice more on hair. What do? We are always practicing, right guys? Okay, so there's that part. Oh, hi Miss Wendy! Now I'm going to go ahead and fill that in with the lighter color. And then I'm going to go back in and just do a little bit of flicking of the darker, just darken in some of those shadows. One reason I need to practice on the hair more is because I have kind of a heavy hand. I was also a massage therapist in another life, so that was pretty evident in that. It's more like a solid. It wasn't anything that hurt. It's just you felt when I massaged you, you definitely felt my hands. I've got massages from people that it's like I can barely feel anything that they're doing, and that does not work for me. Okay, that looks pretty cute. So now I'm going to go ahead and add her little headband. And I can't believe we've already been a half hour, but it does take a little bit longer than some other things to cut out everything. That's probably why it was taking so long. So I'm going to go ahead and add her little hairband. And that matches so nice. Now for her shoes, let's see. I've got some scraps over here. So what color do we want her boots to be? That's kind of a match. I think I've got some other reds too. Let's see if any of this stuff would match. I think I like the dark ones. I do not know, TR. I have. You mean your full screen computer, or are you talking about like on your TV? Because I've watched YouTube on TV a couple of times, and I'm still trying to I still don't really understand exactly how to get access to everything I'd like to on it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and stamp out her little boots. Assuming I can put it in the paper in the right spot. Okay, I cut off part of it, so I'm going to just turn this over and do it again. Okay, so on this one, I'm going to go ahead and color it before I cut it out. And I'm going to use my dark reds. Yeah, that one's visible. I'm just going to do a little bit of shading so you can see a little dimension on there. And then the soles are going to be a little darker than the rest. Actually, I use DR6 for that, for the bottom. So they'll be even darker. And then, of course, I am bringing in my DR1 to shade, to blend that little bit of darkness out. So it will be quite so dark. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut out the boots. Now I'm going to leave the white part white, or the fluffy part white. So I'm not going to cut that part out. So for paper piecing, you can use colored paper or white paper, or you can use pattern paper. Anytime you use anything other than white, it saves you the time of having to go in and color the entire image. And it adds a little additional, kind of cool texture. And I am probably cutting too close to that line. Okay, so now she's got some dark boots to go with her cute little dress. I'm going to go ahead and add those on with my art glitter glue. And this thing is flowing really, really well because I just refilled it. You have to be real careful with that. Oh, I didn't cut the bottom part off for some reason. I thought I did. Oh, wrong side. If you stamp both sides, you need to make sure that you're looking at it right. I almost glued it down wrong. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and color in her face just with some of my markers. This is the FS family. Those are for the skin tones. This one is a bit pinkish. I wonder if I've got the right lids on them. Oh, I got the right lids on them. That's the darker pink. Okay, so I'm going to use FS4 for the shading. Go ahead and bring a little bit of that in. And then under her hair. down the other side, because I figure I'm going to have the light kind of coming from the front. And then FS1. And I like going back over them a couple of times just because that gets them a bit more saturated and you can blend the color out. This is because I was just using them to color kitties last night. I'm just getting a little bit better at some of my coloring, I think. After you do the same image like about 6 times, you kind of get a little bit better anyway. Okay. And looks like this marker is a little dry, so I'm going to use the chisel nib on it. One of the big differences between this and the with the Spectrum Noir and the Copics is that Copics have got a brush nib and Spectrum Noir do not. Spectrum Noir has the bullet nib and the chisel nib, and that's it. So I have little or no experience using brush markers at all. So far she's looking pretty cute, but I need some other color for her stockings. So I've got a bunch of pinks, and looks like this one is pretty close to the polka dots, so I'm going to use that for her stockings. And just doing the same thing, inking up the area we want to stamp and just stamping that down. Perfect. And then finding some pretty pink markers to work with. This one may work. This one's a little bit too bright, I think. That one, I think, well, actually, I do like the AP one better. That one is kind of a muted tone, kind of got a little bit of a gray in it. So I'm going to put a little shade under her, shadow rather, under her little skirt there. And then down the front of this leg, because that's where the shadow would be. And then again down here at the bottom. Then I'm going to take out my blender, which is a little dry, and use the chisel nib to try to blend some of that out. And it does look darker than it's going to dry, and that is because it's wet with the alcohol ink. Okay. And I'm not good at blending with with the colorless blender. I need to refill that again. Okay, I'm going to say that that is good enough. And I'll go ahead and cut out her stockings. Right up to the top of her fuzzy boots. And thanks, Karen. I'm glad you like this pink. I do think it's a little bit light though. I think I'm going to take a light gray marker and see if I can tone them down a little bit. Yeah, that color looks good, I think. It just seems like it's a little too bright for the rest of it, because the rest of it is a little bit toned down. Okay, it doesn't look quite as pink, but it does look like it goes in better with what we've got. So I'll go ahead and glue that in. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. I've decided though I'm going to leave a little bit of a border, kind of as if it was, you know, die cut out. And then I'm going to have to pick out some other pattern paper to use as the front of the card. And of course I noticed as I'm doing this that I didn't color her hand, and it doesn't really look like a glove, so I think I need to go ahead and bring back in those FS colors and color in her hand over here. So I've got my FS1. There we go. If you haven't noticed, when I'm cutting, I am not turning the scissors so much as I am turning the other hand that is holding the paper. Makes it a lot easier to control where you're cutting. And you don't have to cut everything exact. It's like I'm not going in with a lot of the detail pieces. I'm not going in and, you know, cutting exactly basically this little shadow area. I'm not cutting them exactly like what I'm mirroring, but it's close enough. And my gap between the image and where I'm cutting isn't always exact. The same distance either. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. I do love the way that she has turned out though. She is so pretty. So when I get done with this, I'm going to have to pick out, not have to, but I'm going to pick out another piece of pattern paper to be the main panel for the card, and I want it to contrast with the colors that I'm using here. So although I want them to match somewhat, I want them to go together, they don't necessarily have to be the same color. So I'm thinking I might use one of the greens, and it really depends on how busy it is. Is it going to take away from how pretty she is, or that sort of thing when I'm making that selection. And thanks, TR. I think this is so cute too. Like I said, I love these images. I just really don't use them that much. I'm a card maker. If I was a scrapbooker, that would be something else because you have bigger layouts to work with. That may be one reason why I'm not a scrapbooker, because though you've got those bigger layouts to work with. Okay, so there she is. And now let's get out the pattern paper pack again and see what would look good for her. Since it's all coming from the same pack, we know that everything's going to coordinate pretty well. So that at least isn't anything to worry about. This would be way too busy, and it's got too many bright colors. If it was muted and dull, it might work. The green might work. You guys, give me a shout out if you see something that you think would work the best. But I kind of like that green. Of course, you know I liked the green when I was wanting to do her... when I was wanting to do her dress. Now this would be interesting. Kind of like that too. This one I think is probably a little bit too busy. Stripes wouldn't work. That clashes with her polka dots. This is a little bit too busy too. Vellum may help with that, but I don't really think I like that one either. The stripes are too busy. I am really leaning back towards those greens. We've also got this. This is really cool, but I still think it's a little bit too busy. Here's some candy canes though. Those are kind of cute. What do you guys think? I am now leaning between the candy canes and that excuse me, the candy canes and one of the greens. And then we've got this paper. This is really pretty too. I plan on using this for another card, but could use the other half of the pink. So we've got green, we've got pink. Okay, and this Jingle Bells word, Christmas words looks really cool. We've got another green. Okay, so I think before I start going any further through the paper pack, I'm going to go back and do the plaid, the green plaid. Thank you, Karen, for pointing that one back out to me, because I could stay here all day trying to decide between those different patterns because they're all so pretty. Okay, so for this I'm going to need to cut it down. I am going to step away for a minute. I've got my small trimmer that I always use on all of my videos, and it's a 9-inch, but this will not fit in it. But I've also got another trimmer that's bigger, so I'm going to go ahead and use that one to cut this down to be able to fit on the front of a card base. Okay, so I just cut off a 3.5-inch strip from that. Oh, that is so cute. Okay, let me go ahead and grab my scoreboard and the card bases. So these, like I said earlier, I cut them down from an 8.5 by 11 sheet so that they're now 8.5 by 7. So I just need to score that at 3.5. And my mini scoreboard is not long enough to do the whole thing. So luckily, since that 3.5 is half a 7, I just flip it over and finish scoring at that 7.5. And then, like I've said before, we always do the groove on the outside to help keep the card from cracking. And I like doing the fold inside my scoreboard so I can make sure that it's lined up on the edge. A lot of times my paper isn't exactly, you know, when you buy it, it's not always exactly 8.5. So when you score it at 4.25, it doesn't always match up. Okay, this one looks pretty good. So I can either go all the way to the edge or I can bring it in a touch. I think I'm going to bring it in a touch. So to start off with, since this one is 8.5, this needs to be trimmed down to 8.5. So when you trim 8.5 from 11, that should be 2.5, if I'm not mistaken. Easier just to use the measurements on my excuse me. Easier to just use the measurements on my glass mat and go with it from there. So here is 8.5. So I'll just cut it off there, and then I can trim it down. I think I want to do probably about 1/4 inch off of each end. That would give 1/8 of an inch. Okay. I apologize, guys. My brain is just not wanting to do math right now. So here's 1/4 inch mark on that end. So let me go ahead and cut off 1/4 inch off of that long end. And then I can cut 1/4 inch off of this. So it's going to be 3 1/4. And just to test to make sure it looks right. And that looks good. Then I am going to bring in some ink. And we're just bringing a little extra color around the edges. I think the ice spruce would look good. Okay, I was looking for my rag here to wipe off the excess ink that might be on there from some cards I was making earlier today. So I'm just going to bring a little extra in from the edges, assuming I can get some color down. Now it looks like there's a little bit of color coming in, so that looks good. So that's one side, and come in from the other side. And one thing I do notice is when you use a larger brush, you're able to get a lot more color down a lot quicker, and I really like that. And these are some brushes that I just got off of Amazon. And since they're all in different colors, I can make sure I stay in the right color family. Okay. And then I'm just going to ink up the edges a little bit more. Take care of the white core. And Elizabeth, you were thinking, I think you guys, you and TR were thinking actually what I was thinking. Guess what I'm going to be doing with the trim on her dress? Okay, so she's going to be so pretty. So let me go ahead and put that down. Okay, and I am going to pop her up with some foam tape, because you gotta have a little dimension. Almost reaches down to the bottom without showing, so that was nice. I also did check to see if this little this stamp was still available, because so many of the things that I've got, a lot of them aren't available anymore. But I did say that it is available at scrapbook.com, so I left a link down below in case you guys are interested. And I think, if I remember right, it was on sale, so that's also nice. Okay, so I can go ahead and put her in there, so that's going to be so pretty. Okay, and I'll just place her in the middle there. And then I'm going to use this. This is Nuvo Glitter Accents. So this is going to be going along, this is going to be her boots and the trim on her dress. Oh, that is the perfect final step. It looks so cute. Hi, Crystal. Thank you so much for joining us, hon. Card's almost done, but I do want to thank you for dropping by. And then I'll add a little bit more to her collar there. Excuse me. And do you guys think I should add any snow to this? Or I think she's pretty much done. She looks awesome. But of course I want a little bit more snowy sparkle on here. And this stuff dries in no time. I used some earlier on some more other cards, and I was surprised at how quick it dried. Of course, I think I'm layering it on a little bit thicker this time than I did on those other cards. So all that would be needed on this one would just be to add a sentiment, which I think the sentiment should be on the inside instead of on the outside, because I don't want to take anything away from this. She is just too pretty. So it looks like we are right at an hour. I want to thank you guys for dropping in and hanging out with me while I made this card. And I'm planning on right now doing one of these every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. This week there are a couple of other events happening. We've got a couple of hops. There's one for the grads of Team Tiny. It's going to be on the 12th. Which I believe is on Thursday. And then there is the beginning of a new Scrap Hoarder series is starting this Saturday. So be sure to tune in for that too. I am going to go ahead and let you go for now. And thank you again for dropping in and hanging out with me. And I really do appreciate all of this. And if I didn't give you a shout out when I saw your name come up, I really was looking down at the card most of the time. And I'm doing this on my own, guys. So if I didn't say hi to you, I do apologize. And I do want to let you know that I do really appreciate you being here. So thank you again. And you guys have a wonderful crafty day.